Welcome to the new 4X historical strategy game, Millennia. And thank you to Paradox Interactive for providing me with an early access look and sponsoring this video. If you'd like to play Millennia, it will be available to play for free during the Steam Next Fest. So why not? Check out the link below, give Millennia a go, and now let's jump in to the video. So from the beginning, let's start a new game. There's a quick start option here and also my preferred custom game option. I like to turn the number of players down just a little bit, as well as the size of the map, make it a little bit cozy, a little bit easier to manage. You can also build your own nation, choosing its name, its flag, its style of architecture for its cities and its towns, as well as a trait or bonus. Most of these, in my experience, tend to be more impactful early in the game. As you move through, pick up technologies, they become less relevant. A lot of them, though, will maintain usefulness, extra movement on units. We start with a city here, one region, Nagoya, and in our case, a couple of dudes, as well as our extra bonus starting cavalry, scout cavalry. So let's send the scout out first. They have obviously much better vision than our war bands that are kind of our earlier sort of tribal warrior-like unit. The first age is quite small, 5 technologies on offer, time it takes to research them down the bottom here, and only one option to move through into the next age, just the age of bronze. That's it. So I don't need to worry too much about any extra conditions that I might want to meet just yet, though I do have one in the back of my mind, and it requires me to get scouting first. So that's exactly what I'm going to do when we jump in and take a look at what the city's doing with, granted it's only one population, it's just a dude, one worker, walking around here on some grassland, providing 2 food rather than 1, so, it's alright, but we've unlocked enough culture, in this case 8 out of 8, to generate a cultural power. In this case, I'm probably going to go with a town to add it onto my city. We could also get a one-time bonus of science with this Eureka, or boost all of the yields in our city with this local reforms, but because it's quite small, the towns will help with growth, generating more wealth, improvement, influence, helping to expand our borders. I'm going to place a town. Placing it there would hook this up faster, tempting for these early resources. Or placing it there to grab these 2. I'm going to place it here, and ta-da! Here's Torda. And one of the key things that Millennia does differently, as I move up here, use this Discover Landmark function to discover the Sahara Desert for some exploration XP, is these domains and these one-off powers. The first one, Spawn Scout. We're going to try and use our scouts to spawn more scouts, to get more scouts, and scout out the whole map and find as many goody huts and landmarks as we can. And now the scout will steal the glory and discover, in this case, the Amazon rainforest for, again, a one-time boost of exploration XP, a little bit of combat, 1 more landmark discovered, and a camp nearby. Brilliant stuff. It looks like also this unit was attacked, and you can play out the little battle for attacks that happen in a turn that's not yours. Down the bottom here we have some controls, but of course most of the control is actually in, building an army, forming an army, choosing what type of troops you want to send in, line troops, ranged troops, and where you attack from. That's how you control combat in Millennia, rather than clicking this guy and clicking that guy. But we could have skipped through it, didn't really need to, got a successful victory, and picked up the goodies underneath, in this case, a bit of warfare experience, or a free archer. We're up to 2 pop. We're probably growing a little bit slow. We do, however, have some neglected improvement points. Here's a tile that's already being worked. So I can either engage with it down the bottom here, just like pick an improvement and find a place to build it as recommended by the game, or I can click on this tile and gather the resources, and it'll tell me what improvements I could build specifically here on this terrain or for these resources. Pasture is the obvious one because cows are here, so let's do it. And now that tile, if we jump into the city, much more valuable to us, right? It's now not producing, say, just food foraged for the city. Instead, it's producing some goods for us, though. It's producing, in this case, 1 meat for 3 food, and 1 leather for 3 wealth. And maybe as we move through, pick up more technologies, we can improve these goods, convert them into higher value goods, and develop supply chains. Alrighty, flashing ahead just slightly, we're on turn 15, the year is 6500 BCE, and you can see that someone else is researching the next age. And so now, Millennia is telling me that. It's saying, hey look, Spain, 22% of the way there, it's going to take them 6 turns. Because there's only one option, there are other things to consider here too. But I'm just going to grab tribal elders, let them move ahead a little bit, and keep up with the game plan here. I am still, after stumbling upon 2 of these landmarks, basically right at the start, still desperately searching for something else to put my mark on here. If I found city here, we immediately grab 2 tiles within our borders, which is wonderful to see, because of course we can improve them. Now, the way that settling cities works in this game, as well as capturing them, is that they start as vassals. And vassals pay a tribute based on their prosperity level, how well you are taking care of them and their needs. In this case, it's very low because this place has just been founded, but these vassals can grow, in my experience, quite large, especially with extra technologies and cultural powers. And we've also unlocked our first government, huzzah! In this case, again, early on, not a lot of options. Once we get our national spirit, though, you'll see the options open up tremendously. The number of options overall must be extraordinary, but here it's quite narrow. Do I want a bit of extra food or create a warband? I think I want the extra food because growth is important, and with quite a small city for turn 16. This is not massive growth that we're seeing. Send the scout through the Amazon rainforest, and oh my god! There's a landmark right here the whole time, and it's just as well we move through because it looks like the Germans are moving. The forest will slow them down, probably using up their movement points, so they won't be able to discover the landmark in time. I think we probably beat them by 1 turn. Not so much pressure now on finding landmarks and desperately getting out there, though I would still like to find out who I'm playing against, and those other one-off bonuses that we can get to the domains by exploring. Don't necessarily have to do it right at the minute. And just like that, we've moved through to the Age of Bronze, thanks to another empire researching it. In terms of research, we don't get access to the Age of Bronze technologies and stuff until we move through. So 2 more turns to go, and then we can sort of catch up with everyone else. I think that's totally fine. And boom, now we've caught up 2 turns later and made it to the Age of Bronze. New domains available, diplomacy and engineering, national spirits, and trade. All, I think, pretty cool stuff inside of Millennia, and stuff that it does fairly well. We'll discover the tropical rainforest. With that discovered, we have 3 landmarks, and so we have at least the option of sending ourselves and the world, if we do it first, through into the Age of Heroes next time. Or Age of Iron, the kind of default, if you will, the sort of standard historical age. Age of Heroes, an alternate age, and obviously requiring landmarks. Age of Blood is also an alternate one, a crisis one. To trigger that, and we'll be forced to choose it, if we destroy 6 or more enemy units, that will plunge us into this crisis age. And of course, all of them require that we at least move through this age a little bit more, right? Do a little bit, research a little bit. In this case, 3 technologies. One last thing we'll do in this setup turn, moving through into the Age of Bronze, is choose our first national spirit. Something that you can see is done a few times through the game. This is where the customization of our civilization, if you will, really kicks off. We get some bonus domain experience if we're the first one to lean into one of these. You can see some other players have already taken some, including both of the warfare ones, which is a bit of a yikes. If I jump in and actually take a look at them, they work like little tech trees, focused around specifics to a civilization. Buildings, tile improvements, infrastructure, the way that you move around the map or interact with other players, the powers that you unlock. All of it is here, as you can see. And now we have access to this tree, and we can spend our exploration points on unlocking these benefits. We can buff the bow hunter down here, turn it into quite a powerful unit, but I think I'm probably going to firstly reveal elephant and then get hunting. And those will be the focus probably for all of our exploration points rather than scouts at this stage. Alright, we've finally softened up Salvador enough that we can jump in now. The game is predicting a win. It's 2 poor city militias up against my army of 3 mixed units. You can see that the game automatically positions the ranged unit, the bow, at the back, obviously as you would expect, with the line units at the front, as well as our cavalry. They take turns to fight through, and in this case, we're going to come out, I hope, unscathed. No, not quite enough. It was a sacrifice right at the end. Thank you for your service, Warband. And now we have options. We can take it, or we could gain 2 population in Nagoya, gain 100 wealth, 10 chaos and destroy it. It's kind of slow going. It would save me 30 government experience, but it's in kind of a bad spot. I think we're gonna burn it down. Oh dear. Okay, it feels kind of bad. It's generated some chaos though, which is something interesting at least that we can talk about up here. Chaos and innovation are two distinct things that start to play out from this era. Innovation will grant us positive rewards, cutting edge events, powers, that kind of stuff. Chaos will grant more dangerous events. Chaos within our cities, our region, things we either need to pay off or suffer from. So generating a bit of that will mean that we're going to get a bad event probably in about 10 turns. But Nagoya can now grow like the super city it is. Unfortunately, it now has a need for housing, and that's a need that I'm going to struggle to meet. We have dwellings, but we're going to need 10 improvement points to get there. So maybe I surge Nagoya a little bit too quickly. Let's spend some of our 57 exploration domain points. I don't think I'll reduce the cost of expanding. The bow hunter is very tempting, but I'd like to reveal elephants because they're obviously a unique resource to this spirit. We can reveal it, hopefully find it, and maybe expand into it. Those two go together quite well. But ultimately, I kind of just want to, again, like I say before, push towards that extra food. Okay, quite a bit going on as we send our first pioneer, the unit capable of building outposts out into the world. And I think I'm probably going to plop one down in and around here. Actually, maybe over the other side of the river, just to get away from the mountains a bit more next to these scouts. The other thing that I'm thinking about is integrating Edo, which also costs government XP. So instead of spawning a settler, you could integrate a place. I'm going to do it. However, it is going to change our culture upkeep down from 0 to -3. So my culture per turn takes a hit. It was actually really high before, or it was high enough before that I was kind of keeping up with the number of towns and that kind of thing. So I'm not too worried about the reduction. That kind of acts like a soft city cap to stop you from taking too much too fast, growing alongside that potential for unrest, which as you can see in Edo, relatively high. Not a lot to do here. Thankfully, we have some improvement points and some ivory. Good stuff. All right, let's gather this in with a hunting camp. Super cheap improvement. The ivory will give us one more exploration XP and the meat some food. So an interesting tile, at least. Ooh, one of the things as we cross over into 2800 BCE about the outposts, though, very hard to defend. So if you're relying on them for resources, particularly later on, you've got to keep that in mind. Here I've left 2 scouts just sitting over top, and as the turn was crossing over, this barbarians decided to come in and sort of take a little bit of health out of them. We'll obviously eventually win that, but it's probably for the best that I just sit in place and hold, let the barbarians slam into me, rather than getting too boisterous there. And here we have what inspiration provides, a positive event. +1 culture from meat goods. Holy moly. That is one of the best ones I've had given the situation we were at. The hunters from Japan have started imbuing their meats with spices to enhance the taste. And people love the taste of my... Righto, turn 50. You've got a lot going on for me, including, I'm going to skip through, actually a fairly impressive siege by these quite strong barbarian units. We took some casualties, but our legendary scouts continue to defend, and they're going to do just that as they keep Edo alive. Now, I noticed that we're probably going to be locked out of choosing the next age. The United States is already 50% of the way through. They have surged ahead, suggesting to me I need to focus a bit more on research and less on exploration because it didn't quite pay off, but also that I probably don't need to start researching one of these at 19 turns and should instead focus in on something that could be a little bit more useful, either discipline or officials. Also, our outpost, our wee outpost up here, should at the very least have a unit defending it probably. Getting a little bit nervous about the number of units I have, considering we're about to move into an Age of Blood. In an Age of Blood, everybody is at war with one another. So if you push the game through into that crisis age, everybody is instantly at war. So these open borders, these alliances, bam, here it is. They don't matter, right? So as the game plays through this animation, like it does through each age, we'll see who moved us through. The United States made the transition into the Age of Blood. And then you can see down the bottom the special rules that apply to this age. In this case, it's about conflict. All nations are locked into war. Unrest for war is disabled, so your cities won't develop a wariness to war. And also, chaos gained from conquering regions is reduced by 50%, so that won't tick up as quickly. Military units, less upkeep. More warfare experience by killing non-barbarian units in this case, and new governments. Basically, it's chaos inside of this crisis age. I see a lot of discussion in the comments about the way Millennia looks. I love what they've done with even just relatively simple things like hues and different colors to stuff like the water. I just love what they've done with the ages. The way that they changed the map. Some of the ones in the later game that, and again, I can't show you in this video, but eventually I'll be able to even add more resources. And while I'm not allowed to go into the detail or give anything away, it's important to bear in mind. So for this cultural power, and because we've just moved into an age of blood, I'm going to use Ray's army, and we're going to raise it on this outpost, because anyone could easily just wander along and destroy it. It doesn't have any extra defenses. I mean, our cities don't really either, but without visibility, I mean, it just seems dangerous to leave it undefended. We're at war with everyone, so maybe I want to farm a bit of military XP, or focus on these 2 barbarian camps that have popped up right next door to Erdor. I think I do. Let's get a volunteer in here and start clearing some of this stuff out. And we're going to start with the Germans, because we're now at war with everyone. So let's farm some military experience. Whoo! I might just step back a little bit. We can afford to heal up. It's our borders that they're pushing on. Here's potentially another one, again with a draw. We've got armies pushing in. They could burn down Torda if we're not careful, because that has no defenses. Thankfully, even though I actually don't have the defensive infrastructure set up here, we still need the lookout. It doesn't look like they're quite strong enough, or at least not quite interested in fighting me here. I'll rush my cultural power. Could use that to quickly raise an army, but I think Eureka is needed, because that will finally surge us through to the Age of Blood as well. Now, of course, all of those sort of, shall we say, map-wide effects were already playing out, like the war and the chaos. But now that I've completed that research project, I actually have access to the Age of Blood. It leans in much more into some really unique stuff. Barbarism, for example, allows us, I think unique to this age, to create and enlist barbarian units. You can see also things like brutality here, with skull towers and bloodstone walls, changing what would normally obviously be not. Because we're so desperately up against it, I'm going to use a much cheaper ability. They will increase in cost the more you use them, bear in mind. But I'm going to use this much cheaper one to just quickly get a dude down here and desperately defend this city. I feel like I'm just being attacked from all sides, probably because I am. So, you know, makes sense. Look, these dudes now inside of friendly territory. Let's get the leader back to base. Probably his 2 goons can take out this unit. What are we up against exactly? A berserker. Extra defense against barbarians, extra attack against line, and attack against barbs. Right. A barb slayer, and also kind of a line unit slayer. Lucky for me, I didn't bring any of those in here. Oh my goodness. Okay, so Hagil survived on Erdor. Another day. Just. Bad news, of course. Nagoya was completely brutalized. We can probably afford to bring some reinforcements out of Erdor, kind of stretch ourselves, granted a little bit thin here. We won this combat fairly handily in a cool looking battlefield with some more interesting looking units there too. Nice to see. And I think we'll just kind of bounce between these two with this army of 80 strength, 90, and then kind of a ragtag group back here. This poor archer just needs to run for the hills on almost no health. And it looks like that might have been enough for them. They're like, yeah, we'll just stomp him a bit, burn down his thing, and then quickly run away. Oh my goodness. They have really squeezed in here, haven't they? We're slightly below their strength, but collectively, hey, look at that growth on Erdor. But collectively, We might be able to take them down and sort of teach them a little bit of a lesson here. Let's have a look. We're going to take some losses in the process, but you know, it's kind of something that I'm willing to do. Bit of a tough change of turns up here, but we can at least take out a unit that is standing idle by itself. Squeeze it away. Can the scout finish it? Yes, it can. Let's heal up and just quickly tap that, destroy that. Now we're roughly even with them. We might not get our goal of destroying Dusseldorf right now, but we've at least kind of kept them at bay. Okay, using 1 gold, I can rush this culture. Feels like a no-brainer. We have a new addition now, Peaceful Revolution, and that's, I think, thanks to the fact that, not the Wild Hunters, but instead inside of our tribal government, we've completed it, or at least made it to this reformed policy right at the end. I'm absolutely going to reform our government. The revolution will be peaceful. To me, we feel a bit more like a tall empire rather than a wide one in this case. In fact, I think we definitely do. So I'm going to select the Imperial Dynasty government, grab the new Construct Palace Domain Power so we can get a very powerful building out of that, and then maybe move through and start to improve. Okay, if we want to take this city, we have to move on it relatively quickly, as in within the next few turns. If we don't, I worry that unrest within our own cities, because we're not garrisoned in them, will grow too high. Likewise, the unrest from war. So let's use... Oh, we can't quite get forced march, and I don't really need reinforcements. So while they've seemingly just walked away from Dusseldorf, let's send our army in. I don't expect a winning outcome here because the game didn't predict it, though that's pretty dang good. This place doesn't have any walls yet, so without a proper army reinforcing it, can't really do a lot. Here they are, running back to defend. They're like, oh no, we left. We shouldn't have. You're dang straight you shouldn't have. Let's just step out slightly, use reinforcements to heal these units back up to full, step back into their territory because of course I can't use reinforcements within it, so we have to just step out a little bit and successfully capture the, granted not a lot to it, but still enemy city. Looks like they're going to try and fight fire with fire and chase down my town, quickly burn it down instead. So we'll continue to follow them, keep putting the pressure on, and continue to use warfare reinforcements to keep ourselves nice and healed. Now, of course, they can do the same thing. They're in neutral territory there. That could have also been what they're doing, but for the time being, that's what we'll do. We might as well also construct our special palace building, and even though Nagoya's not in the greatest shape, we should probably do it there. Because it's the capital, you know, kind of makes sense that we have the palace in the capital. It provides also a little bit of unrest suppression, which is great, as well as government XP to get more bonuses from it, and some influence for expansion. Unrest, kind of getting on top of it. It's really the population limit that's the problem, and that's because the town was destroyed. Only a few more turns to go, and we'll get that back. Speaking of destroying towns, no way, Jose, they left Wiesbaden undefended, and so we're just gonna stomp it, removing a whole load of tiles from their land, and as we know down here from Nagoya, significantly weakening that territory. Defense in Millennia, very important. Oh my goodness, I turned my back for a second, and they took Dusseldorf back. I should have defended myself. And, I mean, Ador seems to have defended itself alright, so maybe we're okay. Might be able to take that back. I'll see how I go. The thing that I'm more focused on is rebuilding Nagoya. As it expands, builds towns, reconnects these tiles. It has to expand and grab them again, but it should happen a bit quicker if we are indeed producing what we ought to be. The midden's going to be good to keep on top of sanitation here too. At least this is a start. And poor Dusseldorf falls once more. This time the poor defenders obviously just couldn't hack it, and it will be mine once more. Let's also quickly use something we haven't used much of, the exploration domain. We can spawn a prospector unit, one of the non-military units in the game, send it to a hills tile, and use the prospect option. And in this case, the prospector found gold, which of course we'll then be able to build a mine on top of, start producing that good in the city, maybe refine it down the line as we're researching smelting at the moment. So opportunity could come a knockin'. With a new town built using my cultural power in Nagoya, I am feeling bolshy and optimistic. So while we're still in this age of conflict, it's not going to last for too much longer. Let's maybe just have a peek at what Leipzig looks like. Okay, a little bit of a rough fight that took place there as the turns turned over. Looks to me like we got pretty well stomped back. However, they've stepped away from the city, and I now have a 60% chance to take that down while they've got their back turned. I think that's probably the move that I should take. I'm going to see if we can get a reinforce off because I'm ultimately greedy. Yes, we can. Lovely. All right, between the weak units and our reinforced ones, we can smash through, not doing an extraordinary amount of damage, it's got to be said, but the second army, with almost no health on them, does it just. 5 population destroyed, as well as some wealth collected as we take down that tower. Okay, so checking back in on Nagoya. It's looking great now. It's got 2 towns. Everything's repaired, at least reasonably well. We've got some fish that isn't being worked, some leather, and some wheat. The wheat seems like a pretty easy one to fix. If I select cooking and then go oven, we can convert 2 flour into 2 bread. We're not quite at that stage yet, but we can convert 2 wheat into 2 flour. Done. Now, as you can see, the wheat has been grayed out, and we're now producing 2 flour for much more food. Now that we have the 2 flour, it only makes sense probably that we save up for an oven to turn that 2 flour into 2 bread. What we've done here, of course, is effectively add 3 chains. Uh-oh. Things are not happy in the capital as they violently rebel against us. Hey, come on, I'm giving you bread. Ease up, buddy. Anyway, as I was saying, back to cooking. Let's grab the oven. And now, with a couple of fairly easy to build improvements, but of course quite long to research and unlock, we've converted what was initially just some wheat for food, now through 2 stages into bread, providing 16 food. That is how progression really ultimately works in Millennia, and one of the real powers to this game. I'm probably going to pick up a little bit of brutality, maybe actually some horses. And in this video here, I can't show you obviously beyond the constraints of the first 3 ages inside of this video, so that'll be a wrap. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you again to Paradox Interactive for sponsoring it. I would encourage you very strongly to check out Millennia. You can play it, as I say, entirely for free during the Steam Next Fest. Reflecting on this playthrough a little bit and some advice from me to you, probably should have built some more clay pits early on. Great source of production and improvement points that I kind of overlooked in favor of scouts. And I think that the AI's aggression is pretty good, especially on this difficulty. Let me know your thoughts below. I'll see you next time.